Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela from Blue Bear Flutes. Just wanted to bring you guys an interesting video, something that kind of interests me that I have recently experienced, and I thought that I might share it with all of you. In recent times, we have had several customers, viewers, subscribers, people that are interested in flutes in general, asking about 24-inch long Native American flutes. And I had wondered, after the first couple of them, what exactly is going on. And, with regards to 24-inch long flutes, to me as a flute maker, and probably many other flute makers, you think, well, what the heck is going on with these people? Because flutes are different sizes based on what key or note they produce. And so I've done a lot of research, and my wife Jessie and I exhausted all possibilities. I've called customers, called subscribers and people that watch our videos, and people that are in the know, people who should know about any popular changes or anything that's going on in the community of the Native American flute world. And the only thing that I can come up with is that during one of my videos I had mentioned that a particular flute of mine was 24 inches long. And some of the people I've asked, they just feel like they need a 24-inch long flute. One guy I talked to mentioned that he had seen someone playing a 24-inch long flute. And of course I asked, how did you know that it was 24 inches long? And he said, I just guessed it was. So I don't know if it's maybe just the will of the creator that 24-inch long flutes are now coming into the interest in the Native American flute world. So this video is really intended to help bring some light to the subject and help to explain maybe to several beginners or novice musicians or flute makers or flute players that want to know what's going on with the 24-inch flutes. So the first thing I'd like to mention with the Native American flute, or any flute, any wind instrument, there's one thing that determines the note or the tone which is played. And this one thing is typically the amount of mass of air that can be inside of the chamber of the flute itself. This mouthpiece up here, though it does have an important function, does not determine the sound of the flute. So if this mouthpiece was 12 inches long, like so, it would only make it difficult for you to play because you would have to stretch your arms out so far to reach the flute fingerings. But it wouldn't change the tone of the flute, really not enough that any living being could discern a difference. If we added some length to the bottom of the flute, it actually will make the flute lower in tone. However, that only works properly up to a certain point. As most longtime flute makers know, you can make a flute longer and it'll lower the note up until a point, in which case it starts wanting to play a jump octave. It tries to go up to the next higher version of that note because there's too much back pressure. And the back pressure is the reason that a flute is usually made the diameter and the length that it is in the first place. Not to get too complicated, this is easy peasy stuff. Basically, as I mentioned in one of our other videos, when you blow in a drink bottle, your whoo blown in the drink bottle, the thing that determines the sound that you're hearing is how much air is in the bottle. If you have a bottle that's half full of liquid and half full of air, you're going to make whoo, make kind of maybe a higher note. You drink the liquid or pour it out and it's just an empty bottle, it makes a whoo, makes a lower note. The reason for this is the size of the air chamber in the bottle. The more air it can hold, the lower potential note it can make. And it's the same thing with these flutes. So, like I said, I wanted to mention that to you. And to make a large diameter or low tone flute, it takes some skill. You have to change a few things up here and really know what size you're shooting for to make this happen. But if I wanted to make a very low tone flute, I would have to make it larger in diameter than, say, this flute here. Now, just to give you an idea about these different flutes, this is a low D cedar flute. This is not eastern red cedar, it's actually white cedar, which is akin to western cedar. It is a wonderful low tone flute. I'll play it for you. this low D flute sounds like. If I were to make a Heidi flute, which this is the little guy here, if I were to make this flute the length of this other flute, it won't produce the same sound. It won't produce the same tone because this other flute is tiny in diameter. And the length that you would add to it, if once again it didn't cause it to jump octave, would make a lower note than what it can produce by itself, but not as low as the note of one that's large enough I can stick this flute inside of. So there's a big difference there. In other words, making a 24-inch long flute that is a ½ inch inside diameter is a bad idea. And it just doesn't work that way. And if you put a 12-inch mouthpiece on that flute, you'd be playing it like this, which is not cool either. Having said that, a lot of people get a few things concerned with the tone of the flute confused. And some of these ideas are the tone quality. Tone quality and actual tone are two different things. The tone is, for example, this is a D flute. It's a beautiful sounding flute. I love it. It's a great flute. It's actually on many of the intros of many of our videos, but this here is also in the beginning intro of many of our videos, and most people don't really notice the difference. And this is an F sharp flute, which is, you know, drastically higher in tone than the D. So that's a really wonderful sounding flute and very much closer to the tone of the original Native American flutes than the low tone flute there. We have actually created a video on low tone, like bass Native American flutes that many of you may be interested in. But something that I'm talking about in there that's very interesting to most people is that the low tone sound that many of you associate with the Native American flute comes from American cinema. Actually, back during the old days of black and white westerns, a lot of the westerns were, you know, they had Native American sounding music in the background. It was actually a silver orchestral flute, which is either in low B flat or low C, and was a wonderful sounding instrument, but it was placed there instead of the Native American flute. And that's actually a step lower, or 2 steps lower in the case of the B flat, than this D flute. So, you know, the line of flutes and their origins, like I say, something we've discussed at times before, but most important thing is with regards to the 24-inch long flute. This F sharp is actually only about 20 inches long, and many people once again associate our videos, which have the F sharp intro instead of the D intro. They think it's the same flute, and we get that response quite often. It reminds me actually of one of a type of video that I've watched since my youth from an ancient alien theorist named Eric von Däniken, where he studied Columbian natives. And of course, from the pre-Columbian era, they actually had, they've discovered in recent times small golden airplanes that these pre-Columbian Indians had found, or had made. And they made these small golden airplanes that some people say look like butterflies or what have you, but to me they kind of look more like the space shuttle. And they have a dorsal fin in the back too, which kind of alludes to the possibility of it being more like an airplane. But von Däniken's theory, and I sometimes agree with, is that the people seeing, the indigenous people seeing a plane or a spacecraft or something that inspired them to create these things. And of course, anyone that tries to make an item that is based on something they've seen may or may not get that item correct. One of my other favorite examples is the old gun stock war clubs. Those are very popular northeastern Indian war clubs, and some Plains Indians, I believe, I've seen in museums these war clubs. And the war clubs were shaped like a rifle, but those war clubs were meant to hit somebody with, because some indigenous people, seeing that other people had these powerful weapons, and of course they decided to make weapons equally as powerful, and they certainly were. They were really powerful. They may not have shot a projectile, but they were there. Definitely the way to go. But these ideas are ones that indigenous peoples, for example, may have imitated from something that they've seen.
World War II was pre-industrial in its simplicity. There was no electricity. There were no roads and no radio. No contact with the outside world. Overnight, World War II brought amazing treasures from distant worlds to these remote islands. Airplanes descended from the sky and opened their doors. Out flowed a deluge of military equipment and technology, which the islanders had never seen before. To them, the radio was a wonder, a magical machine able to speak in many voices.
So people who had lived a very simple life for generations over a very short period of time experienced an incredible amount of new technology that just poured across the shore and came into their lives.
And then when the war ended, the cargo suddenly disappeared. Desperate to find some way to bring the cargo back, the islanders turned to prayer and religious ritual.
Much of the ritual of cargo cult attempts to try to attract the return of whoever controls the cargo. They did things like, in many islands, cut airstrips in the forest, in the jungles, hoping that the planes would land again. They built model planes. Sometimes these are small models, sometimes almost life-size models, and put these planes on the airfield as a kind of imitation, some device that will encourage the cargo planes to land.
Using the cargo cult theory, were these gold artifacts created by ancient Indians modeled after mysterious aircraft?
In the case of the airplanes that they found in Colombia, and of course we've seen countless cave drawings and so many of these kind of things, those may be from visions someone had. They may have been from extraterrestrial visitors, or maybe sometime in the next few years we create a time-traveling airplane and it goes back to pre-Columbian Colombia, and people see it and they create something like that. So there's a lot of ideas, a lot of things that could possibly have caused that phenomenon. And likewise with this flute, except for instead of the natives, as they would say, imitating something that other people had created, it's more the other way around. People that are not native are wanting 24-inch long flutes, and no disrespect intended. A 24-inch long key of D flute sounds really great, but if I added another inch to the mouthpiece, it'd be 25 inches, 2 inches make it 26 inches, and so on and so on. And of course, some of, not many, but some of the old flutes actually had holes down at the bottom and a longer sound chamber. We sell walking sticks that are, 4 feet, 4.5 feet tall, and they are in the key of D, so it sounds almost identical to this flute. So a lot of the ideas, like I say, that people have may or may not have some relevance. Of course, if you like the sound of a D flute, it is 24 inches long. It might be the way to go for you. But like I said, I just wanted to kind of clear this up a little bit. I feel that there's probably a blogger or YouTuber out there somewhere that's probably offered something of 24-inch long flutes, and once again, it may have been me, because I've gone back and tracked that video down. However, like I say, the idea is the flute is determined by the size of the flute. The tone of the flute is determined by the size, and because of this, if we make a 24-inch long flute, it should be probably around the key of D. The E flute, which is the next one below, or next one above in tone in the D, is about 22 inches long. The F sharp, as I mentioned, is about 20 inches. The G flute is about 19. The A is 18, and then they go higher and higher as you go down to little Mr. 13-inch Heidi Flute. And I have a diagram for this for everyone to help out with a little bit. But once again, it's probably the sound that you're looking for, not necessarily the length of the flute that you're trying to get. You're wanting something that sounds beautiful and melodious. And likewise, I feel like we make some wonderful flutes. There are the great flute makers out there that make some wonderful flutes as well. But it's always, you know, half and half. It's not just the flute. Sometimes it's the flute player. And a learned skill is something that you can, you can master flute playing and become a great sounding flute player. And of course, if you do that, people will love to hear you play the high D instead of the low D. So this is an E flute. Sounds beautiful just to like. So anyway, I hope this has shed some light on things for you guys. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to post some wonderful, polite, and nice, and lovely comments on this video. And if you're interested in our flutes, feel free to visit our website, bluebearflutes.com. You can find us on Facebook under Blue Bear Flutes and Blue Bear Arts, likewise all around the web. And we appreciate you watching our videos. Once again, I look forward to hearing from all of you, and enjoy the upcoming videos. We have some excellent ones planned. So take care and happy flute playing. This is Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out.